That evening, Ekko died 4 times. On the 5th, he was only late for dinner. Zaun does not count that as a miracle. Zaun calls that an ordinary Tuesday. The lower levels breathed like the whole city had caught a chest cold. Green vapor leaked from split pipes. Overhead, rusted catwalks trembled on their bolts. From below, from the endless dark, damp heat rolled upward. Chem smoke, oil, old water, and the sour breath of machinery that should have been replaced years ago. Ekko ran along a narrow plankway like the boards themselves owed him a path. A tool pack knocked against his back. The Z-drive on his chest pulsed with a faint, mechanical heartbeat. In his right hand he carried a little brass valve. Nothing pretty, nothing rare, nothing heroic. But in Zaun, people sometimes wake up in the morning because of parts exactly like that. From an open window on the 4th tier, Inna leaned out.
Ekko,
Almost home.
you said that yesterday.
Yesterday it was true too.
She narrowed her eyes. Warm kitchen light spilled out behind her. For one brief second, Zaun looked less like a pit of pipes and fumes and more like a place where people might actually live.
No tricks tonight. The soup is ready.
5 minutes.
13, and that is me being generous.
Wyeth crossed the room behind her, black with soot, wrench still in hand.
If your bag is full of half the street again, your boots come off at the door.
If I brought the valve that saves us a whole night, that makes me a hero.
Heroes take off their boots too.
Ekko grinned. He was already shifting his weight for the jump to the next platform when a sound boomed up from below, like some giant had struck a hollow pipe with a hammer. Not a bang. Worse. The crack of metal finally giving up. Then a scream. Not one. Several. Ekko froze. Somewhere under his building, on the lower tier, an old chem line had burst. Thick green vapor blasted out of a side shaft. People on the stair run recoiled. Somebody dropped a crate. Somebody ran. Somebody stood still, because in Zaun, even fear sometimes arrives late. And then a boy's voice came up through the steam.
Ekko, Ekko!
He leaned over the railing. Tavi, skinny, fast, always filthy, one of the little scrap runners from the yards, hung from a crooked service platform 2 levels down. Under him, a broken chain screamed against metal. Above him, an emergency pressure wheel spun wild on a rusted bracket. If that wheel tore loose, the vapor would vent straight into the residential pocket under the stairwell. If it did not, the platform would drop with Tavi still on it. Both disasters were already happening at once.
I can't hold it, Ekko!
Ekko!
He heard both voices at once, one from below, out of danger, one from above, out of home, and as always, there was less time than either side believed. Ekko closed his fingers around the valve, then shoved it into his pocket and ran down. The first mistake he made was a hero's mistake, the stupidest kind there is. He thought he could make it in time. A sprint down the outer stair, a leap to the crosswalk, left hand to the upper pipe, right boot to the grid seam, down with no pause. People were already coughing below him. The green vapor spread through the lower corridor like poisoned floodwater. Tavi clung to the chain hard enough to blanch his knuckles.
Don't look down. Hold on.
I'm not looking down, I'm busy dying.
Ekko nearly made it to the service beam. Nearly. But the old riveted seam in the bridge had been here longer than Ekko had, and like everything old in Zaun, it held together not by honesty, but by habit. The seam burst under his weight. The world dropped. Tavi vanished from sight. The green vapor surged upward. Then iron slammed into Ekko's chest, then darkness, and then the Z-drive shrieked against his ribs like a trapped animal. The world tore apart into sparks. Ekko sucked in air like somebody had just yanked him out of ice water. He was back on the upper catwalk. Inna was still in the window. Wyeth still had the wrench in his hand. The crack from below had not happened yet. The valve was still in Ekko's palm. 5 minutes ago, the world had still been whole. Now he knew exactly where it would break.
Ekko.
Later.
He ran before the pipe even burst. Not down the stairs this time. Up, along the side ladder, onto the outer service frame. If he came at the platform from above, he could grab Tavi before it twisted under him. The hum below was already rising. Crack, shouts, steam. Everything from the last attempt, only now Ekko was running ahead of the disaster instead of behind it. He hit the top beam just as the platform dropped.
Tavi, give me your hand.
I'm trying.
Ekko caught his wrist, caught it, held it. And then another sound came from the lower residential corridor. Not a scream this time, but coughing, heavy, wet, child-sized. Ekko snapped his head toward it. Two little figures moved behind the steam. Children, trapped between a sealed grate and the spreading cloud. If he hauled Tavi up now, the children choked. If he let go, Tavi went down with the platform. Zaun has no interest in choices that leave both your hands clean.
Don't let go.
Ekko held on for another half-second, exactly long enough to understand the truth. He did not have time. He dropped toward the corridor, too late. The children were already on the floor, coughing as if their lungs wanted out. Something cracked above him. The platform gave way. Tavi screamed once, only once. Ekko lunged back toward him, and in the same instant the vapor slammed into his face. The world split again. Sparks, drive wine, backward. This time he did not even waste breath on cursing. There was no room for it. Ekko stood again on the upper rail between the window and the abyss, between home and the break, between 3 minutes and somebody else's life. No, 4 lives, maybe more. He already knew 2 things. The bridge would fail. The top route would fail too. He could not choose between disasters. He had to break their rhythm. He yanked the valve from his pocket and smashed the cover off a distribution box on the run.
Dad, if you hear a pop, shut the upper line.
What are you?
Shut it!
Wyeth did not argue. That was one of the few miracles Zaun taught well. If Ekko ever started speaking in the voice of a live wire about to snap, you argued later. He drove the valve into the side socket at a sprint. The threading did not fit properly. It was never going to. Zaun almost never holds because the right parts happen to meet in the right way. It holds because brilliant people do not have time for factory precision. The valve went in crooked. Ekko hammered it home with the butt of his screwdriver. Click. Pressure bled out of the upper line. The burst below weakened by 1 precious heartbeat. That was enough. He did not go to Tavi. He dove straight into the vapor, ducked under it, found the grate by touch, and ripped the emergency pin free. Metal screamed. The grate jerked upward. 2 children spilled against his legs, coughing and crying.
Run, up the stairs, don't stop!
They ran, 1 chance saved. Then Tavi screamed again from above.
Ekko!
Ekko spun for the platform. Almost made it. Almost. But the side bracket failed before he reached the chain. The platform dropped, smashed against a pipe, and hung too low. Tavi held on. For 1 second. Then one hand slipped. Ekko jumped. Caught only the ends of his fingers. Not enough. The world cracked again. Pain came back with him. Not somebody else's. His. The Z-drive does not enjoy being used to argue with fate over and over. Something like a red-hot nail dragged down his spine. Yellow rings floated across his vision. Ekko swayed and caught himself. Inna was already about to shout from the window again. He raised one hand. Not now. Right now, he could not be a son, could not be a kid, could not even be a hero. He had to be exact. Ekko shut his eyes and in 1 short second replayed everything he had seen, where the seam failed, when the children started coughing, when Tavi shifted his weight to the left hand, when the platform sagged, when his father could shut the upper line. And he understood. He did not need a better path. He needed a sequence.
All right, one more time, but this time my way.
He bolted. Not down, not up. First, to the side siren. An old mechanical alarm hung on a post between tiers. Nobody used it anymore. In Zaun, people usually know for themselves when everything has started going wrong. Ekko slammed the lever. The howl rolled through the levels. People on the stair instinctively ducked. The two children below froze half a step earlier and did not run into the cloud. Good. Next, the upper line. Valve. Hit. Click. The vapor below thinned. Good. Now, Tavi. Ekko flew onto the outer beam, slid the railing, and jumped farther than he had jumped in a long time. Caught the chain, hung beside the platform.
Listen to me. When I say now, you let go with both hands.
Both. Are you insane?
Yes, but that isn't the important part. Ready?
No!
Great, perfect
He
timing.
kicked the side pressure wheel. Once, again. The mechanism jammed. Ekko kicked harder. The wheel tore loose with a shriek. Steam diverted into an empty maintenance shaft instead of the residential corridor. Good, but the movement yanked the platform down with it. Ekko saw the upper fastening crack. A second. Less.
Now!
Tavi squeezed his eyes shut and let go. Ekko caught him with shoulder and chest. Both of them slammed the beam. Above them, the mount broke clean through. The platform dropped into the dark, but the boy was in his arms, alive, heavy, shaking. Good. No. Not good. Below them, where the vapor should have dispersed, a thin blue arc flashed across wet wiring, a spark from an old line. One wrong jump and the whole shaft would go up in flame. Ekko looked at Tavi, then down, then at the trembling Z-drive. He had one more rewind left, maybe, and if he used it now, the drive could die for good. Without it, the next night like this would kill somebody else. That is the moment smart adults love to talk about as if the choice were obvious. They lie. Nothing is obvious after you have already paid for your mistake with your own body.
Ekko.
There was no plea in that voice. Just trust. That is worse. When someone trusts you, failing gets heavier. The first fire snap cracked below. Ekko exhaled and hit the drive again. When the world returned, it did it brutally. Ekko nearly dropped to one knee. Blood ran from his nose at once. His ears rang. The Z-drive on his chest rattled like a broken heart. Fifth time. Last time. No more. Now there was no room for a graceful leap, no room for luck, no room for inspiration, only precision. Siren. The alarm wailed before the burst. People ducked. The children stopped. Good. Valve. Click. Wyeth understood now and shut the upper line without needing a second shout. Better. Beam. Jump. Chain. Tavi.
When I say now, let go. Don't argue.
You are terrible at explaining plans.
Fast, though.
Kick the wheel. Once. Twice. 3 times. The mechanism gave way. The platform lurched down.
Now!
Tavi let go. Ekko caught him and threw him onto the safe beam before his own boots hit metal. Good. Below, the first spark was already crawling through wet insulation. But now Ekko was closer. He ripped the screwdriver from his belt, jumped straight onto the wiring box, and drove the tip into the contact that should have been replaced years ago. The shock hit him hard enough to lock his whole right arm, but the arc went into the metal. Blue light flashed and died. The vapor did not ignite. The corridor below still coughed, shook, and groaned, but it did not die. At last, the disaster began to lose. Ekko slid down the box and hit the floor hard. For 1 second, everything went as quiet as Zaun ever does. Tavi sat on the beam, white as dust.
Are you actually normal?
On bad days, no.
You broke one of my ribs.
Then you're alive.
That is the worst proof possible.
Ekko grinned and folded in half with the next breath. The drive on his chest gave one thin whine and died. Completely. He would not pull anything back tonight. Tavi looked at him differently now, not like the older kid with the impossible machine, like a person who had just put his own body between a city and somebody else's mistake. It was an ugly look, too adult.
You need to get home.
Amazing. I just discovered that route myself.
Your mother will kill me if she finds out I kept you.
No, me first, you second. She likes order.
By the time Ekko climbed back to his level, the soup had gone cold. He knew before he stepped inside. Not from the smell, from the silence. The door to their room stood half open. Warm light poured through it. 3 bowls were already on the table. One had not been touched. Inna sat with her hands folded in her lap. Wyeth stood by the stove. In another family, it might have looked like anger. Here it looked like waiting that had been pretending for too long not to be afraid. Ekko stopped in the doorway, covered in soot, blood under his nose, hands still shaking. And all at once he became small again. Not the boy who fought time, just the boy who had come home late.
How many?
How many what?
How many times did you almost die tonight?
Ekko opened his mouth, then shut it. The smile did not come, only the exhaustion.
You want the honest version?
Only that one.
Too many.
Inna stood slowly, came over to him, looked at the blood first, then at the dead drive, then into his eyes. Only then did she touch his cheek, very gently, as if she were checking whether he was truly here and not one more cruel trick from a city that sometimes gives people back for a minute only to take them for good.
I asked for 13 minutes.
I tried.
I can see that.
Wyeth let out a heavy breath by the stove.
Did the valve fit? So
Crooked.
perfect.
So, Zaun,
Inna stepped back half a pace and punched him in the shoulder, not hard, with feeling.
Next time you yell from downstairs that you're alive, right away, Ekko, right away. Not half an hour later, not after the whole level is already talking about the accident.
Okay, I get it.
No, you do not. You always think you can do it alone, always. And what happens the day you can't?
He wanted to answer with a joke, like always, something easy, bright, convenient. He could not. Tonight the truth was heavier than the joke.
Tavi was there, and the kids in the lower corridor, and the wiring, and I...
His voice caught. Ekko swallowed.
I wasn't making it, Mum.
The silence after that was brief, but real. Inna shut her eyes for 1 second, then opened them again, and hugged him so suddenly it felt like she was angry even at her own relief.
I know.
Ekko went still, then carefully hugged her back. Wyeth turned away to the stove and became very busy with a fire that had already gone out.
Soup can be reheated.
He said it to the stove, but the room heard him anyway.
You can't.
Ekko sat only a minute later. His hands were still trembling. Inna slid the bowl toward him. Wyeth poured a little more hot broth into it, as if warmth might bring his son not just heat, but extra chances. Outside, Zaun went on rattling, coughing, cursing, surviving. Somewhere below, they were already patching the pipe. Somewhere, Tavi was probably telling everybody that Ekko had finally gone completely insane. Somewhere, new accidents were already choosing their hour. But here, at one small table, something else had won for one short evening. Not heroics, not invention, not even a miracle. Just home.
Well,
What?
how's the soup?
Honest answer?
Only that one.
Worth 5 lives.
Then eat slowly.
Why
Can't.
not?
Because honestly, this evening feels like it has lasted a week.
Inna snorted. Wyeth finally smiled. Even Ekko managed the kind of grin people wear after a terrible night when they are lucky enough to have made it back. Not whole, but home. Later, while Inna muttered at the mess of tools and Wyeth took apart the dead drive, Ekko stood at the window and looked down at the steam, the catwalks, and the bent light of Zaun's lamps. Zaun was ugly, noisy, toxic, unfair. It stole childhood early, turned people into mechanics, fighters, runners, and liars before they had properly finished growing. But it had one thing no rich fool above ever understood. Here, home did not mean only a room with a door. Home meant the place you would run down toward, even knowing you still would not make it back in time for dinner. Ekko touched the cold shell of the Z-drive with 2 fingers. Tonight he had lost to time, more than once, but he had still won people. For a Zaun evening, that was already more than usual. A familiar voice floated up from below.
Hey, Ekko.
What now?
My rib really hurts.
Then you're alive.
I hate it when you're right.
Inna rolled her eyes. Wyeth grunted a laugh. Ekko pulled the window mostly shut, but not all the way, just enough to keep the voice of the street inside. Because in Zaun, silence too often sounds like loss, and living noise sounds like a promise. And on the night he died 4 times, and on the 5th only came home too late, Ekko understood one ugly adult truth. Sometimes you cannot save the evening. Sometimes you cannot save the plan. Sometimes you cannot even save yourself from pain, anger, and exhaustion. But if you manage to save the people, that is already enough to open the door and call it a return.